All right, let's continue down to section C. This property does contain or does not contain smart technology which powers and or automates, not limited to, surveillance systems, security, environmental controls, and home entertainment features. If the property so does contain smart technology, seller will complete a smart home disclosure which is incorporated as part of this agreement and identifies the items seller intends to convey with the sale. All attached fixtures must convey unless identified above. So this gets a little tricky because there's a lot of Ring doorbells at homes and you will not get a smart technology addendum for that. What I always go by, and I will check does, if there is an app that controls things in the house that is conveying to the buyer. If the buyer has to go get an app or has to learn how to use technology to live in the house, then you need a smart home addendum because it will state what that smart technology is, how to operate it, and what it operates, what it is connected to. If you're just talking about one Ring doorbell or one security system that was leased and they're going to cancel the plan and now the buyer has to take that smart panel and start their own plan, you don't need an addendum for that. But if you have shades that go up and down with the app, and Cox Home Life does everything and the garage door is all on an app, that's when you want to get a smart home addendum. So going on to section D. This property does or does not include a solar power system. If this property does include a solar power system, the solar addendum is hereby attached and made part of this contract. You're going to check does or does not if they have solar panels on the roof. So it's very self-explanatory. If they do have solar panels on the roof, make sure you get information about it. I would suggest you get a full copy of the original contract when they got the solar panels with the original retailer of those solar panels, and even get a copy if there's a loan from GoodLeap or Tesla or whoever's servicing that loan, get a copy of that. Because you're going to have to pass all of that on to the buyer if they're assuming it, or even if they're just buying the property and the panels are paid off, they still want to see what's going on with those panels. That addendum will be at another video, but it really breaks down, is it a PPA, leased, financed, or owned outright?
Very important part of this,
Extremely
if it comes
important.
to solar panels.
Yes. Moving on, we got line 43. Seller identifies above items as included or excluded in offering of the property for sale. Seller understands that the purchase agreement takes precedence over any intention identified above and will ultimately determine what items are included and excluded in the sale. I just want to specifically talk about that real fast. If you wrote in a listing agreement, washer, dryer, and refrigerator do not stay with the home, and then the buyer makes an offer and they want the washer, dryer, refrigerator, and the seller agrees to that, that supersedes this contract saying washer, dryer, refrigerator do not stay.
And that's how you end up buying one.
Exactly.
Yes.
Is when you don't have that.
Just reading that
down.
made me think of that. I'm like,
Yes.
that right there is how you end up buying one.
Exactly.
Because they're going to go, I told you, and you were supposed to help me through the purchase agreement. That's why I hired you. You should have put this information in here and you didn't.
Yes. And one thing, this is going into the RPA, but if you collect an offer and it says all items per MLS dated blank, including refrigerator, but your seller is not offering the refrigerator, it's in the listing agreement. If you do not convey that to your seller that it's in the offer and they just sign and accept because they're not going to read it, then all of a sudden they're forced to give that refrigerator because the RPA supersedes this listing agreement and you probably are buying a refrigerator. So make sure you are discussing those offers. Let's continue. Seller further understands that it is their responsibility to ensure the items not included in the sale are addressed in any counteroffer to ensure buyer's understanding of seller's intent. That's just more of what we just said. All right, now moving on to page 2, we're still on section 3. Section E, leased or licensed items. The following items are leased or subject to a lien in securing payment: alarm system, propane tank, water softener, or others. You could check others as solar panels. I would, just to be very clear. If the solar panels have a lien or a lease or a finance against them, I would check that other box and put solar panels.
You could do that with windows, with AC unit.
Yep.
You know, people finance a lot of these big ticket items, so it's important just to simply rattle off that list. Alarm system, propane tank, water softener. Is there any liens on the AC? Do you owe any money to anybody that's attached to a mechanical system in the house?
Yes. A big thing that I've come across is water softeners. So somebody will go get a water softener for $2,800 and finance it at $45 a month for 10 years or whatever it may be. when they go to sell that home, they, as consumers, believe that the water softener stays and the buyer's going to take on that $45 a month, and that's not the case. So you need to find out, number one, is there a water softener? Do you own it outright, or do you make payments on it? If they make payments on it, either the buyer needs to assume those payments, or you're going to have to pay off that water softener at the close of escrow.
Or the seller has to pay it off.
Exactly.
Which would be to your point that you'll end up being the one paying it off.
Yes. And finally, seller will provide to buyer as part of the purchase agreement copies of lease documents or other documents obligating seller to pay for such leased or lien items. So make sure you get a contract of anything they still own money on.